After losing my husband Zachary in a tragic accident, my in-laws, pitying me and my unborn child, shocked me by suggesting his identical twin brother Ethan move in with us, care for both bereaved families, and assume all his brother's duties without ever officially marrying either of us, leaving me torn between duty, loyalty, and my own heart. Ethan's wife, Sophia, branded me shameless and collapsed in a fit of pique that evening. I approached my in-laws' residence, hoping to sway them from their peculiar notion. Out of apparent sympathy or perhaps desperation, they proposed something truly unimaginable, that Ethan's twin, Zachary, should oversee both households. Not officially, of course, but as a twisted burden of responsibility. That same night, Sophia, Ethan's spouse, had labeled me shameless and succumbed to a rage-induced faint. I mustered my resolve and headed towards my in-laws' quarters. My intention was to implore them to abandon this absurd suggestion, but, as I drew near, I overheard voices from within. My mother-in-law, bewildered, queried, "Zachary, it was clearly your brother who passed away. Why do you insist it was you?" My blood ran cold. Then, his voice, heavy, replied, "Mother, Sophia is delicate. If she knew my brother had died, she wouldn't survive it. And the one I've always cherished is her. I only wed Rachel, so my brother could be with Sophia. Now that I've given Rachel a child, I owe her nothing. From this point forward, I'll care for Sophia in his stead. Don't mention this taking care of both families again. It will only distress her." I found myself unable to breathe. The man I believed to be deceased was not Zachary. It was Ethan. The man I had mourned, held in my heart, and wept for nightly was alive, living a charade. My husband, my beloved, a fabrication. I stumbled back to my room, trembling, my face awash with tears. Everything, every single thing, was a deception. His gentle concern, his quiet strength, the years we shared, all a performance. The following morning, I descended the stairs, eyes swollen and complexion pale. There he was, Zachary, tenderly serving Sophia breakfast. She appeared perfectly at home in his embrace, a triumphant smile gracing her lips. When she noticed me, she snuggled even closer, as if to declare victory. I said nothing. I took my seat, placed a hand on my abdomen, and began to quietly consume nourishing food, fuel, not for the baby, but for myself. My resolve was firm. I would end this pregnancy, reclaim my existence, and make them pay for every deceit, every injury, every tear. After I finished eating, Zachary finally glanced up, startled by my appearance. For a fleeting moment, guilt flickered across his face, then vanished. "Sister-in-law," he stated coolly, "I will not assume responsibility for both families. My heart belongs solely to Sophia. There is no room for anyone else." Sophia interjected, feigning remorse. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I was just overly emotional. But I love my husband too much. I can't share him." Her frail body trembled, and she leaned into Zachary, as though on the verge of breaking. He held her close. "Don't worry, Sophia. I'd rather die than touch another woman." I almost laughed. Then where did this child in my womb originate? I looked at them both, calm and collected. "Don't worry, I agree with you. The concept of overseeing both families is preposterous. I wouldn't accept it either." They froze, surprised, relieved, but oblivious to my true decision. My in-laws appeared, having overheard everything. My mother-in-law regarded me with concern, though I could scarcely feel anything anymore. "Rachel," she gently offered, "Zachary is gone. You are still alive. Don't cling to the past. Move on, begin anew." Zachary played his role again. "Mom's right," he said smoothly. "Zachary's gone. You need to release him for the child. Be strong. Move forward for the child." I wanted to scream, but instead, I offered a faint smile and nodded. "You're right," I thought. "I considered it all night, and I've made up my mind." That night, I gazed at my reflection. The wounds within my heart ran deeper than any mark upon my skin. But I was done crying, done pleading. They assumed I was weak, but they forgot I had already endured the worst. Now, it was my turn. They had shattered my past, but I would reclaim my future, and I would show no leniency. Previously, I was indeed trapped in a rut, causing you all distress. Moreover, since Zachary was born with weak sperm, and this pregnancy is so challenging, it must be divine will, predestining him to have no descendants in this lifetime. So, I wish to follow heaven's will and heed your counsel. Terminate this pregnancy, release him completely, remarry, and embark on a new life. After articulating this, I touched my abdomen, thinking, after all, for a scoundrel like Zachary, having no offspring is the least he deserves. I even fear that if I bore his child, it might be born without certain body parts. So, for my sake and the child's future, I cannot give birth to it. Looking up, I saw everyone present was stunned after hearing my words. My in-laws appeared anxious, for a moment. Zachary's face was even more distorted. After all, hearing me say I wanted to terminate his child, and that it was heaven's will for him to have no descendants, he couldn't possibly be pleased. He stood abruptly, instinctively shouting angrily, "Who convinced you to terminate the child?" However, after saying this, he quickly realized his emotion was too intense. He took a deep breath, trying hard to control himself, but his expression remained grim. A moment later, he couldn't help but frown, his tone filled with reproach. "Sister-in-law? Zachary has just passed away and you already want to terminate his child and remarry someone else? Isn't that a bit inappropriate? After all, this is the only bloodline he left in this world. Moreover, he was so kind to you back then. What you're doing now is a bit too cruel." I blinked, looking at my in-laws innocently. "Weren't you always urging me to let go of Zachary and end this pregnancy?" My in-laws' faces became somewhat embarrassed, their expressions unpleased as well. After all, no one wishes to hear that. Their son is fated to have no offspring. They quickly composed themselves, all looking at me with disapproving gazes. My mother-in-law sighed. "Rachel, Mother knows this pregnancy is painful for you, and we've always been concerned about your health. Before, we wanted to persuade you to let go of Zachary and terminate the pregnancy, but you love this child so much. Mother truly doesn't want you to have regrets in the future." My father-in-law also agreed. "Yes, Rachel, have you truly considered ending this pregnancy? Before, when we tried to persuade you, you were so resistant, saying this was Zachary's only bloodline and you wouldn't agree no matter what. Can you truly bear to terminate it? You must not make an impulsive decision. Of course, we support your choice. We just don't want you to regret it later. As for remarrying, of course, we hope you find a good person in the future. But are you truly able to let go of Zachary now? I hope you can express your sadness if you're feeling down. Don't suppress your pain just to put our minds at ease, pretending to have moved on." Listening to their words, I felt an indescribable mix of emotions. It seemed that not only Zachary, but also my in-laws, all wished to keep this child. When they had previously urged me to end the pregnancy, it was only because they believed I only had Zachary in my heart and would definitely not agree. They were merely uttering polite words to persuade me. However, I quickly dismissed it. After all, to the Shaw family, I was always an outsider. "I'm tired. I'll go rest first." I nodded, not bothering to argue with them anymore. I turned and ascended the stairs. This child, I definitely wouldn't give birth to it. But they were so resistant. They probably wouldn't allow me to terminate it easily. It seemed I needed to find an opportunity to leave the Shaw family quickly. As for vengeance, on Zachary, I'd pursue it gradually. That night, I went to the living room for water again. I overheard a conversation between my in-laws and Zachary. "Mother, we absolutely cannot let Rachel terminate the pregnancy." It was Zachary's voice. I paused my steps, then heard him continue. "I was born with weak sperm, and Sophia's body is not well either. She can't endure the pain of pregnancy. Now that my brother is gone, this might be the only child I'll have in this life. If she terminates this pregnancy, won't our Shaw family truly have no descendants? Since she's unwilling to raise it, we can give it to Sophia to raise after it's born. Sophia has always desired a child, but due to her health, she hasn't been able to conceive. She's gentle and kind. If we give her the child to raise, she'll definitely treat it wholeheartedly. My mother-in-law sighed, her voice laden with worry. I don't want our Shaw family to have no descendants either, but Rachel not only wants to terminate the pregnancy, she also wants to remarry. You know, the development of our company relies on her father's assistance. If she insists, we truly can't stop her. As soon as she finished speaking, my father-in-law said reproachfully, if Rachel terminates the pregnancy and remarries, she'll have no connection with our Shaw family in the future, and the young family won't assist us anymore. I've been saying you should care for both families. This way we could not only keep Rachel but also keep the child. But you refused. Look at the predicament we're in now. What should we do? Hearing this, Zachary didn't appear anxious. Instead, he sneered and confidently said, All right. Do you think she truly means it when she says she wants to terminate the pregnancy and remarry someone else? She loves me so much. If it weren't for this child, she would have taken her own life long ago. This child is her emotional support. How could she bear to terminate it? As for remarrying, She's just saying it out of spite. How could there be anyone else in her heart besides me? Don't worry. She definitely won't remarry, and she'll definitely give birth to the child. She'll be a part of our Shaw family for life. Listening to Zachary's confident words, I couldn't help but laugh coldly in my heart. Tisk, what they say online is truly accurate. Men are indeed ordinary yet overconfident creatures. My mother-in-law paused, seemingly swayed by Zachary. Her behavior today was indeed too irregular. It does seem like she's just acting out of spite. Zachary said very confidently, When you proposed the idea of caring for both families before, Sophia struck her. She's been pampered since childhood. It's normal for her to be angry. Moreover, although she believes the person who died was my brother, she loves me so much. Seeing my face in person, she must still have feelings. It's inevitable that she would subconsciously treat the current elder brother as me. This morning she probably saw me being affectionate with Sophia and felt upset, plus being struck yesterday. That's why she's deliberately saying these things out of spite. She's already having a hard time accepting that I'm dead in her eyes. If my older brother could care for both families, she could treat him as my substitute, numb herself, and continue living, which would be good. Making such a fuss is just to pressure me into agreeing to care for both families. Hearing this, my mother-in-law complained with dissatisfaction. Rachel is truly, if she wants something, she should just say it directly. Your father and I treat her like our own daughter. We would try our best to accommodate her wishes. Why does she have to say these spiteful words to deliberately hurt us and you? I've been telling you to care for both families, to take more care of her. Hearing this, Zachary's tone became somewhat irritated. He interrupted. All right, I understand. Rachel is truly troublesome. Tomorrow you can bring up the idea of caring for both families to her again. This time I'll agree, just for the sake of this child. I'll make a concession one more time. Early the next morning, during breakfast, my father-in-law indeed brought up the idea of caring for both families again. Rachel, eat more. Why do you look even thinner? He sighed. It seems this child is really taking a toll on you. Father believes it's better to let Ethan care for both families to look after you better. My mother-in-law also nodded and persuaded. You are Zachary's wife, and Ethan, as the eldest son of our Shaw family, as Zachary's older brother, he should shoulder the family's responsibilities. It's only right for him to take care of you. You don't need to feel uneasy about it. I don't know what Zachary said to Sophia last night. This time, she didn't voice any objections. She just looked displeased, clenching her fists tightly, staring at me with a mix of jealousy and animosity. I raised my eyes to look at Zachary. Zachary's face was filled with impatience, his tone dismissive. Huh? Didn't you propose to end the pregnancy yesterday, just to make me agree to care for both families? Fine. For the sake of Zachary's child, Sophia and I will make a small concession and agree to your request. Finally, he added somewhat smugly, After I care for both families, don't throw any more tantrums in the future, saying things like terminating the pregnancy and such, hurting us and this child's feelings again. Listening to his words, I almost laughed in anger. He's done so many heartless things and he still wants a child. May you have no descendants. Originally, I had some genuine affection and reluctance towards my in-laws, but after hearing their Conversation last night, I completely lost any feelings for this family. They were kind to me only because of my father. To them, I was just an outsider they could exploit. This is good too. I won't have any reservations in the future. I shook my head and said coldly, "There's no need for the idea of caring for both families. My older brother and sister-in-law should simply live their own lives. As for my child, you don't need to worry about it." Early this morning, I had already called my father, asking the driver to come pick me up. The person hadn't arrived yet, and except for me, everyone here is from the Shaw family. It's not to my advantage, so I'd better not make things too difficult for now. So I tried to speak to my in-laws. My father is always concerned that I'm too sad and might do something foolish. He said he wants to take me back to stay for a few days. My in-laws still wanted to stop me, but not long after I finished speaking, my father arrived personally with the driver. They quickly smiled and escorted me out. Seeing my haggard and thin appearance, my father, a formidable man, reddened, his eyes with distress. Naturally, he had no good attitude towards the Shaw family. He glared at them with a dark expression, not bothering with them at all, and simply took me away. My in-laws looked at me with embarrassed expressions, while Zachary glared at me with a gloomy face, looking as though he had been humiliated. In the past, I couldn't bear to let my in-laws and Zachary be embarrassed, so even if my father was unhappy, I would coax him to have a better attitude. But now, I don't want to bother with this family anymore, so I just got in the car directly. After the car departed from the Shaw residence, I began to gently appease my father. He was unaware of Zachary's past transgressions against me. He simply believed I had grown thinner and more worn because the Shaw family had not cared for me adequately, hence his anger. My father has always been fiercely protective of me. I lost my mother early in life, and he never remarried, raising me as both father and mother, spoiling me beyond measure. Those who knew him said he loved my mother deeply, and after her death during childbirth, he almost couldn't go on living. It was I who gave him purpose. From then on, he focused all his attention on me. Back when Zachary supposedly died, I thought, my father and I might both be unfortunate souls, experiencing the agony of losing loved ones. I wished to emulate my father, viewing the child as a reason to live and raising it with all my love. But I never imagined my parents had true affection. Well, I was merely a jest. I met Ethan and Zachary in kindergarten. I recall that when I was very young, I enjoyed trailing Ethan. My father, observing my fondness for him, decisively approached the Shaw family, arranging an engagement between Ethan and me. Then he began to support the Shaw family, assisting them, who had just entered the middle class, in gradually establishing a business and a public company. Later, my spouse changed to Zachary, and I was subjected to abuse by someone he had arranged. He feared the Shaw family would look down on me, so to ensure my well-being, he aided the Shaw family even more. Until now, they have savored the benefits. No wonder they are unwilling to let go, exploiting me for so many years and even harming me so deeply. I will make them pay it all back with interest. I had already engaged a private investigator yesterday, monitoring the Shaw family around the clock. After I left, Zachary, who rarely lost his temper in front of my father, furiously overturned the table, shouting angrily, "Rachel did it on purpose, huh? Deliberately summoning her father to put us in our place? I've already agreed to care for both families. Why is she still doing this?" My mother-in-law sighed and advised, "Rachel has been pampered since childhood. It must be because your tone wasn't good. You were reluctant, and Sophia even dared to strike her. It displeased her, so she called Mr. Foster over. It's good for her to stay there for a few days. The medical facilities are better at Mr. Foster's residence, which is better for the pregnancy. With Rachel staying there, the child is safer. We'll go pick her up in a few days. When the time comes, you speak more gently and bring up the idea of caring for both families again. When her anger subsides and she sees our sincere attitude, she'll return." Zachary snorted coldly. "Causing so much trouble, threatening us, isn't it just to make me willingly beg her to let me care for both families? Fine. For the sake of the Shaw family, for the child, I'll make one more concession." My father-in-law also frowned. "This Rachel is indeed too spoiled. A little displeasure and she causes the whole family to lose face. No wonder Ethan and Zachary don't care for her. Fortunately, she loves Zachary deeply and is willing to compromise for him. Otherwise, our Shaw family really wouldn't be able to control her. Zachary sneered. Who wants her to like me? Sophia is 100 times better than her. Let's wait for another month or so before going over. When she's desperate from waiting, she won't put on airs anymore, and she'll agree readily then. Hearing this, my in-laws all nodded in agreement. I watched the video of their family, secretly recorded by the private investigator. I couldn't help but laugh coldly again and again, still thinking about me bearing a child for their Shaw family. That day, I informed my father that I wished to terminate the pregnancy. My father knew how agonizing this pregnancy was for me. He was already distressed beyond measure. When he heard I wanted to end the pregnancy, he naturally agreed wholeheartedly. He immediately began arranging for the most skilled doctor to perform the procedure for me. I also told my father not to protect the Shaw family anymore and that there was no need to provide them with any more conveniences. Of course, I didn't tell my father about Zachary arranging for someone to abduct and abuse me back then. Otherwise, with my father's temperament and protective nature, he would definitely want to skin Zachary alive. It's not worth letting my father take such a big risk for a scoundrel like Zachary. I will use other methods to make Zachary pay the price. After the procedure, I rested for a month to recover. I no longer had to endure morning sickness or injections. My body steadily improved, and I gained a good deal of weight. These days, seeing my physical condition improving, my father was overjoyed. He also heard that I had completely moved on from Zachary, so he excitedly started arranging introductions for me. He said he wanted to find an agreeable and attractive man to join our family for me to enjoy. I was a bit helpless. I didn't want to find another man, but I couldn't dissuade my father. Otherwise, the news had already spread. Every day, countless men came to our house, forming a queue to be considered for joining our family. After a month, without the backing of the young family, the Shaw family was in disarray. They finally couldn't endure it anymore and came to find me with Zachary. When they arrived at the villa gate, they encountered the group of men queuing up to be considered for joining our family. Zachary looked at the crowd at the door in confusion and frowned. What are all these people doing here? What a mess! He wanted to walk forward, but the crowd of men blocked the entrance, and he couldn't get through. He tried to push through the crowd, but a man impatiently grabbed him. Hey, are you also here to join Miss Young's family? You have to queue up. We have rules here. No one can cut in line, no matter who they are. My in-laws and Zachary were stunned. Zachary asked in disbelief, Join the family? Which Miss Young? The man looked at Zachary as if he were an idiot. Which Miss Young? Doesn't Mr. Foster only have one daughter? Of course, Amelia Foster. I heard her husband passed away a while ago. Miss Young is such a good person. Now that she's single, of course, there are plenty of men who want to join her family. Look, all those in front are here for that. As he spoke, he gestured to the over 100 people queuing in front. Zachary's expression was as if he had consumed something foul. He said in disbelief, Are you all insane? Amelia Foster is still carrying her late husband's child. Her heart only holds her late husband. She won't possibly find another man. You should all leave quickly. Hearing this, the man said, Hey, you don't understand. Miss Young's child has already been terminated, and Mr. Foster has already announced that Miss Young has let go of her deceased husband and wants to remarry. Now everyone has a chance. Terminated the child? Zachary and his parents exclaimed in unison, their expressions all turning exceedingly unpleasant. Zachary then laughed coldly. Impossible. She cherished her late husband and child more than her own life. There's no way she would release him and terminate the child. As for all of you, Zachary looked at these people with disdain. Let's not mention that she was previously violated by kidnappers and is already damaged goods. Now she was even carrying another man's child and still thinking of another man? You're all rushing to join her family. Are you addicted to being cuckolds? As soon as he uttered this, all the queuing men's expressions turned ugly. One man angrily said, How dare you speak like that? Miss Young was a victim back then. How can you call her damaged goods? I heard that after she joined the Shaw family, she was dutiful to her in-laws and considerate to her husband. She's a rare good woman. How dare you slander her like this? That's right, brothers. Let's teach him a lesson. Later, Zachary was beaten by the crowd. ultimately forced to reluctantly join the queue. They dared not depart midway, fearing they would have to queue again if they returned. I heard that by the time it was his turn, it was already the third day. He and his parents had not slept for 3 days and nights before they finally entered my family's villa. As soon as they saw me, my mother-in-law began complaining with red eyes. "Rachel, those people outside are all ruffians. Look how they beat up Ethan. Your father is truly. You're still carrying our family's child. Even if he cares about you, he shouldn't arrange for people to join the family without your consent. It's really unreasonable. This time you must speak to him properly and tell him not to be so headstrong. In the future." Zachary stood coldly to the side and snorted. "We've come to take you back. After all, you're Zachary's wife. It's not right for you to stay at your parents' home for so long. Also, I'm willing to care for both families to look after you and the child, and treat the child as my own. I'll treat you as my wife. But remember, Sophia will always be the primary wife." I couldn't help but laugh angrily. Primary wife? Secondary wife? How many years has it been since the founding of the country? He's still dreaming here. My mother-in-law looked me up and down and also smiled. "The doctors at Mr. Foster's place are indeed good. In just over a month, you look much healthier. When we leave, let's bring those doctors back to care for you. But I still have to say something about those people outside. They're really outrageous. They even said you terminated the child. Isn't that cursing people? It's truly wicked." Hearing this, I finally broke my silence and said, "What they said is accurate. I did terminate the pregnancy. I've already moved on from Zachary, and I'm ready to start a new life." After I said this, Zachary and the others' expressions completely changed. "What did you say?" Zachary asked urgently. My mother also quickly said, "Rachel, don't joke about this." I looked at them coldly and said calmly, "Now that I've terminated the pregnancy and Zachary is gone, I have no connection with the Shaw family anymore. I won't go back with you. You should leave and don't come back in the future." After saying this, I called security to escort them out. Zachary's face changed. He stared at me in disbelief, his expression grim. "Have you gone mad? You're actually throwing us out? I've already agreed to care for both families. What more do you want? All right, you've made your point, but there's a limit to playing hard to get. If you refuse this time, I won't come again. In the future, don't regret it then." My mother-in-law also laughed awkwardly. "I see you've gained weight. How could the child be gone? You must be joking, right? Are you still angry about what happened before and trying to scare us? Rachel, Mother has to scold you now. You're too headstrong, always hurting our family's feelings." I couldn't be bothered to deal with them anymore, so I directly threw the termination report at them. Then I had the bodyguards drive them out. I heard that after they were driven out, looking at the report, knowing that I had indeed ended their Shaw family's only bloodline, they all went insane. They forgot for a moment that they still relied on my father for a living. They started shouting and cursing outside, calling me shameless for ending their Shaw family's child. They cursed that I would surely be punished. The people queuing outside finally realized that they were from the Shaw family. Now hearing them curse me and remembering that Zachary had called me damaged goods before, they all wanted to impress me. They rushed up and severely beat them again this time. I heard that in the end, they were lying on the ground, unable to even curse anymore. When my father learned that the Shaw family had come and repeatedly slandered me, he was furious. He no longer showed any mercy to the Shaw family and started targeting them directly. At first, after Zachary and the others returned, they were still talking tough, saying that I had ended the child and they wouldn't forgive me unless I conceived another Shaw family child. They wouldn't agree to let me return or allow me to pay respects at Zachary's grave. Otherwise, I would never be able to visit Zachary's grave in this lifetime. But within a month, the Shaw family went bankrupt under my father's targeting. The Shaw family lost everything. Even their only villa was seized. In the end, they could only end up on the streets. As for Sophia, when she married Ethan back then, it was because she saw that he was the eldest son of the Shaw family and could inherit the family business so she could live a good life with him. Later, when Ethan died, she also realized that Zachary was impersonating Ethan, but she didn't care as long as whoever could inherit the Shaw family was her husband. Now that the Shaw family had no money, of course, she wouldn't accompany them through hard times. Soon after, she became the mistress of a wealthy businessman, abandoning them. Zachary went crazy with rage, cursing Sophia and attempting to strike her. As a result, he was beaten half to death by the rich businessman's bodyguards. Mr. and Mrs. Shaw blamed him, saying that if it wasn't for him insisting on pretending to be Ethan back then, they wouldn't have ended up like this. He had ruined the entire Shaw family. Zachary, however, seemed to grasp a lifeline. He earnestly told Mr. and Mrs. Shaw that I loved him so much. If I knew he was still alive, I definitely wouldn't remarry. I wouldn't abandon their Shaw family. Their Shaw family still had hope. Then he excitedly came to my house gate, shouting that he was Noah Parker, not Liam Parker. The person who died back then was his brother. He had lost his memory, so he thought he was Liam Parker. He said he remembered everything now. The person he loved was me, and he begged to see me. He also said that even though the child was gone, we could have another one. He had already forgiven me for ending the pregnancy. As it happened, I had already collected evidence of Zachary arranging for someone to abduct and harm me back then. A police officer came directly to my house gate and arrested him. Before leaving, he was still angrily struggling. "Let go of me. Do you know who my wife is? Amelia Foster. If you dare to arrest me, she won't let you off." I finally walked out, leisurely, and whispered in his ear, "Noah Parker, I've known it was you all along. You look like a real clown now. Oh, by the way, it's time for you to pay for what you had those kidnappers do to me back then." Zachary's eyes widened little by little as he looked at me in disbelief. You knew everything? Why?" He understood it all now. He stopped struggling and fell to the ground, his face ashen. But soon, he crawled up again, hugging my legs and begging for forgiveness, saying he did all this because he loved me. I laughed coldly, had someone pull him away, and turned back into the villa. Epilogue. Such a self-centered man as Zachary would never seek reasons within himself. Now that he had fallen to such a state, he would only believe it was Sophia's fault. So, the day after he was arrested, he escaped. He didn't go anywhere else but found Sophia. He went crazy and stabbed Sophia to death. When my father discovered that the person who hurt me back then was Zachary, he flew into a rage. He wanted to break into the prison and tear Zachary to pieces, and was angry that I hadn't told him before. I smiled and stopped him, saying, "Father, he's not worth you getting your hands dirty." Then I whispered a few words in his ear. He burst out laughing, finally giving up the idea of taking action himself. Under my father's maneuvering, Zachary's death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. After all, letting him die so easily would be too good for him. Then, following my suggestion, he found several very distinctive cellmates for Zachary. One who preferred men, one who enjoyed BDSM games, and one with violent tendencies who liked to abuse others. My father gave money to their families, asking them to instruct their family members to take good care of Zachary when they visited to ensure that he would have a very exciting life in there for the remainder of his days. Later, I never married. Instead, I began working in my father's company, learning business from him. My father often patted my shoulder approvingly and said, "Daughter, I feel more at ease in trusting my business empire to you. Men cannot be relied upon. Fortunately, you possess this aptitude." Although he said this, he was still afraid I would be lonely, always thinking of finding someone to join our family as a diversion for me. The men queuing for interviews stretched from our home to the company, but I refused them all. Later, my father ceased being obsessed with finding someone to join our family, and instead found many male models skilled at pleasing people to entertain me. He said these men were all very clean, all medically checked. He would change a batch every few days, no emotional attachment, just good at making people happy male models who only required money. I tried hard to suppress the pain in my heart. When I was 32 years old, I suddenly had the idea of having a child. So I went to a sperm bank and selected one. After 10 months of pregnancy, I gave birth to a daughter who belonged only to me. She resembled me greatly when I was little. Seeing that I had taken over the company, my father simply retired to care for the baby at home. With his doting, the little girl became an unstoppable little imp. I was always very troubled, wanting to persuade my father not to spoil the child so much. He wouldn't listen, saying, I spoiled you so much, and you still suffered when I wasn't paying attention. My dear granddaughter needs to be even more pampered so she will never suffer in the future. When my daughter was 2 years old, one night when she was half asleep, nestled in my arms, she said, "Mommy, I actually met you a long, long time ago." I asked amusedly, "How long ago was that?" She said softly, "I don't remember clearly. I only remember Mommy saying she was afraid of giving birth to me without a butthole, so she told me to come find you again in a few years." "Mommy, what does without a butthole mean?" She blinked her innocent eyes and looked up at me. I smiled, awkwardly. "Go to sleep. Little kids shouldn't ask so many questions."